Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to this discussion this afternoon to discuss some topical issues. I have with me in studio the Honorable Anil Nandlall, Attorney General and the Minister of Legal Affairs. Minister, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you very much, Eddie, and good afternoon to your viewers.
I, Back when the People's Progressive Party Civic was in the opposition, the leader of the opposition then, now Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, would have said repeatedly, along with other leaders of the party and of course members of the opposition then, had spoken at length about the wanton giveaway of state lands by the then administration. There was a promise to have these instances investigated and where necessary to have those lands taken back. Could you say at this point what is the update on this?
Thank you very much, and as you know, we have been speaking about this a lot in recent time. Um, the review which was promised is a work in progress. The agencies that are under review are NISIL and Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission. These are the two agencies that have been used as the platform to essentially give away state lands in the most capricious, the most arbitrary, and the most non-transparent manner. In fact, the review is revealing some extraordinarily startling facts or absence of facts. There appears to be no process involved. So it is difficult to understand on what basis these lands were gifted away. There is no public process whereby members of the public would have been invited to either express an interest or put in a bid or make an offer to buy lands. None at all. So one does not know how the persons who actually benefited became aware that these lands were available for divestment. Secondly, there is no principle governing or evidence of any principle governing how the prices were determined. There is no valuation certificate on record. There is no market value assessment done, or at least there is no evidence of it anywhere. So one does not know how a particular price was arrived at for these lands. Thirdly, there is no evidence that any type of project document was submitted in relation to these lands by persons who expressed an interest, so that a person assessing applications or expressions of interest can determine that this land will be beneficially used and that employment will be created or revenue generated or the economy positively impacted upon by the economic activities which would have been undertaken on the land. Nothing at all. So no one knows what use these lands would have been made, what use would have been made of these lands when it reaches the hand, or when it reached the hand of the lessees or purchasers, as the case may be. And in terms of purchase price, there appears to be no principle governing how much will be paid down and when the balance will be paid, because you have lands that are valued 600 million. That's the purchase price. How they arrive at that purchase price remains a mystery. But $500,000 is paid down, and possession is given to the purchaser. There are cases where not a single cent is paid down, and title is granted to the purchasers. That is the extent of the whim, caprice, and I dare say corruption that permeate these transactions.
And maybe listening to what you're saying there, Minister, the price is one, the absence of all these processes and so on. We've seen in the press over the weekend publications which point to strategic locations at which these lands, I presume, would have been identified and subsequently leased and or sold to individuals. If you care to maybe delve in a little to some of the locations.
Well, the areas that are largely under review are highly commercial areas and or areas of high agricultural value. So the entire Wales estate, some 16,000 acres or thereabout, their distribution or divestment is under review. Then you have Ogle around the airport, because that will now be a commercial hub. You have that area is where 200 or more acres were gifted away or are under review. And what I have just outlined is what is found. Then the other area is Peters Hall on the East Bank. That's where the bridge will go. The new Demerara Harbour Bridge is very close to where the stadium is, and it is where the Diamond Bypass Ogle Road will pass. These are lands that are valued millions of US dollars and have been gifted away by leases and or by title for peppercorn consideration, meaning nothing compared to what they are actually valued. And worse yet, they have been divested from the original recipient or the lessee in the case of leases to third parties. And I'll give you some examples. I work with 3 files here, and these 3 files represent simply a sample of many, many files or matters with these similar facts. These 3 touch and concern transactions at Peters Hall. Ogle is even worse, because Ogle, the lands are sold and not leased. Here the lands are leased. So let's take the first one. This one here, it's 15 acres of land. 15 acres of commercial land located at Plantation Peters Hall. Now, these lands are leased to lessees, this particular land, and all the lands at Peters Hall were leased. No one, the company name is Life One Farms Inc., a company that owns no asset. That's the first thing. Unknown, completely unknown. And that company benefits from a lease of 15 acres of land at Plantation Peters Hall. The lease says that the lessee, who is represented by a person again who is not known to be any major businessman or woman in this country, is leased this land for 11,700 US plus VAT annually for a period of 20 years. The lease has one of the strangest clauses in relation to state lands. Under the State Lands Act, it says that when state land is leased, the lease must say that the lessee shall not part with possession without the consent of the landlord, or shall not assign the interest in the lease without the consent of the landlord, with the state reserving the right always. In the event that there is going to be a transfer to a third party, the state can step in and take the land back, and the land reverts to the state. That is under the State Land Act, and that is reflected in any leases for state land. That clause in this lease was altered to say that the lessee may divest the land, may part with possession, may assign it to a third party interest. Now, one lawyer did all the transactions, or most of the transactions. He drafted the leases for Providence, for Peters Hall, by NISIL. When you look at other NISIL leases, that clause is differently worded. It's worded in the proper way. Let me get the clause to you quickly. The lessee may assign, sublet, grant any license, or otherwise part with possession and or purpose, and or dispose of the whole or any part of the demised property, etc., etc. May. It's supposed to be may not, without the permission of the lessor. And herein lies the conspiracy. Well, when this person got the land now, this person, by a deed of assignment, assigns the interest in this lease to a third party, another unknown company. In fact, not a company, a person, some Chinese person, for $100 Guyana. 100 Guyana dollars. Look at it.
So you're paying 11,000
US.
11,000 plus US per year, but you're assigning it
For 100 Guyana dollars. 15 acres of land for 100 Guyana dollars. Now, I don't know if this is not wrongdoing, then I am not sure. So these files are going to pass to the police, and an explanation will have to forthcome. Because I can't imagine how a person will pay 11,000 US, which by itself is a great undervalue for the land. And that's a shell company for all we know. Then, and the lease is altered, that doesn't reflect the standard provision in state land leases, which allows, strangely or coincidentally, the lessee to divest, and the lessee divest, and does not make, doesn't divest for more, but divest for 100 Guyana dollars. Obviously, you have money laundering implications, you have fraud. So this will be passed to the police and SOCO, and we will get the legal advice, and the investigations will begin. So that is transaction number one. Transaction number two is identical. Identical. Another 15 acres. Again, A to Z Pharmaceutical Medical Supplies Equipment Inc. Another unknown company. Another shell company. Doesn't own anything. And the same position, same identical clauses, gone to another unknown tenant, the same tenant, the same one as the other, this gone to another third party, the identical third party that the previous land went to, for 100 Guyana dollars.
So this is a clear indication that these lands apparently were intended for this third party.
This is organized crime, in my view. And got elements of money laundering and fraud and corruption. Then you have this one. This one is another. This one is 5 and 515 and 520 acres. 20 acres. Again, a company, Arken Group Incorporated. This is another straw company. Nobody knows. This company doesn't own anything. The addressee, 34 3rd Street, Alberton, that's where the person lives. This is 20 acres. This one, the same leases, same conditions, same covenants as before, but the third party who acquires it at, there is an agreement of sale, and it's sold to this company, and apparently this company is a known company, some company in the oil industry, for $1 million US, and the money is paid into the account of the lawyer, and it is the very lawyer who drafts all these leases, paid into the account of the lawyer at a commercial bank, and I have the information here. 2 payments totaling $1 million US in a commercial bank, the lawyer name, so you can disclose it, and his address, 34 3rd Street, Alberton, that's his address at the bank. The very address that the original lessee, the Arken company owner, is apparently living at the same address with the lawyer. And the money goes into the lawyer's account. And he's also the lawyer who drafted these leases.
The others.
All the leases. So, this is only Peter's Hall. All the files will be taken to the police. And fortunately, persons have come forward, and they have been relinquishing their interests in these agreements, and the government is prepared to work with them. And once they provide, once there is a process, it's not that they be genuine persons who are genuine and whose interest in acquiring land is genuine and who can back up their request or applications for land with projects that are sound and that will create jobs for Guyanese and will have a positive impact on our economy, we are prepared. The government has said that we are prepared to deal with those people. But the transactions have to be transparent, they have to be public, they have to be at market value, and there must be a process that one must understand what went on. And the companies must show that they would be able to deliver on the projects that they claim that they want the lands for. So they have to have financial backings. They must do a feasibility of the project. The normal thing that you have to go and do if you have to get a loan. How will you pay back the loan? What are you going to use the land for? So you have to have a project, and it has to be, properly examined. And every person who qualifies will get portions of land. They are genuine people who have been caught in this nasty, corrupt web. And the government will deal with them at the appropriate stage and regularize. But we can't go forward until we deal with these. Well, it's not that we will not go forward, because these anomalous transactions will not block development from taking place and block genuine investments from taking place. But certainly, we have to get these matters investigated, and wherever the investigations go, so be it.
But Minister, you touched three areas. But we know the leader of the opposition, and we keep going back to where he started discussions on what was taking place. We know that there were serious issues that he would have highlighted, like at the lands and survey, where lands were given, an entire section of the Demerara River was given out, and you have a number of other cases. Are those also part of this investigation?
I will have to do another sit-down with lands and surveys, because you have prime commercial property in Georgetown that have been commercial lands that have been gifted away. I spoke about one where a piece of land was given to someone or sold to someone. I say given because it's $12 million and it's 0.7 acres of commercial land. The land next door to that was sold for 151 million, and this one is sold for 12 million. So land, and then you have those types of lands. Then you have the river fronts and ocean fronts, Berbice River, Demerara River, Pomeroon River. Those are another set of transactions that are currently under review, which will eventually go to the police. So, but we don't want to send all. The review is an ongoing process, and as the files are coming out, you send them so that the investigations can begin. And hopefully, more and more people can come and to prevent police investigations, just negotiate with the government, and let's get regularity brought
That is what I
to the
wanted
process.
to ask you, because, like you mentioned, a number of these persons may have been caught off guard, innocently in this web that you spoke of, and whether the government will invite more persons in to come and regularize. But I also want to ask you, in closing through, you talk about what is happening in the Ogle, Wales, Peters Hall area, and some amount with regards to the lands and survey. But there's a lot of questions about the housing development that is taking place somewhere in the Mahaika area. I understand a major housing scheme there. I don't know under what circumstances those lands were acquired. I understand that it is a development involving a former minister of the previous administration. Do you know or have you gotten to a stage where you start examining those areas as well?
No, I don't think our investigation extends to that area. But I know that for the areas under review, the Peters Hall, Ogle, the other areas of lands and surveys, and Wales, everyone has been written to. And they have been invited to go into NISIL, and those at lands and surveys will also be written to and invited to go in and you know, surrender their documents so that we can wipe the slate clean and begin a process that is transparent and accountable. All of us have a duty to protect the state's property. And you had these things happening under the nose of Sarah and Soku, as I said to another section of the press, and they did nothing about it. You know, and based upon the information that you have, any child looking at that file or looking at those files can identify the wrongdoing. Any child. So the police investigations will begin, and we will see where it takes us.
Thank you very much, Honorable Attorney General and the Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlall, for joining me this afternoon to bring this very important information to the public. I want to thank you very much for joining us as well as we discuss the naked, if you want to call it, giveaway of state lands on the very, very questionable circumstances. Thank you for being part of the program.